I believe he didn't know the streets like that. You feel me? I know the streets like that. You feel me? Some people just don't know the streets like that. They feel comfortable coming to Roscoe's with chains.
On September 12th of 2022, Rakeem Allen, also known by his stage name PnB Rock, walks into one of Los Angeles' top soul food chains. If not, it's top food chain, been mentioned in several films and TV shows.
Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles?
Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
Heaven has to be like a cross between a Sir Mix-a-Lot video and Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
Once inside the Roscoe's, PnB is greeted by a so-called fan who he daps up before proceeding to his booth inside the restaurant. Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, it's been a staple amongst locals and outsiders trying to get a taste of LA's culture since the restaurant was founded by Herb Hudson in 1975. And with 7 locations spread throughout Los Angeles, they've always provided service to pretty much all parts of LA County. You got the Roscoe's by the airport on Manchester, the one off Washington and La Brea, one of the most popular Roscoe's locations, where you might occasionally see a celebrity, is off Sunset Avenue, and then you have this one, located on Manchester and Main Street, was the location that PnB Rock chose to eat at. Here's the thing, the first 3 Roscoe's locations that I mentioned, while they may come with some occasional issues, are damn near heaven compared to this location. One of the main reasons for this is because unlike all the other Roscoe's throughout Southern California, which at most may sit in the borderline of gang territories, this particular Roscoe's sits in the middle of South Central Los Angeles, in the heart of a small but deadly gang's turf, the A7 Gangster Crips. Sadly, PnB Rock didn't know this location had a reputation for being deadly amongst locals, and is known for multiple other crazy situations playing out, which unfortunately led to his demise. Today, we're gonna do shit a little different. We're gonna address the A7 Gangster Crips, which is one of the most deadliest small gangs in Los Angeles, but we're also gonna go over why you definitely don't have any business being at this particular Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in the area, especially if you're not a local, belong to an enemy gang, and even more so if you're a celebrity. Yeah. All right. Welcome to Cali's Most Dangerous. Let's get into it.
It's really hard not to notice this growing memorial right outside for rapper PnB Rock. Not only are his fans mourning his death, but so are his friends from his hometown in Philadelphia.
On the September 9 to 12 weekend, rapper PnB Rock visits Los Angeles for some business meetings and to attend another artist, T Grizzly's wedding, where him and several other rappers are seen in video celebrating their success while showing off their Rolexes and other fine jewelry. After the weekend, on September 12th of 2022 to be exact, PnB Rock and his girlfriend Stephanie decides to grab some lunch at a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles on Main Street in Manchester at around 12:28 p.m. The couple walks into Roscoe's, where PnB Rock is greeted and fist pumped by men sitting next to the entrance before the two are taken to their booth and served their food shortly after. But little did they know, a setup was being planned out right outside the Roscoe's while the two ate their meal. Now, let's rewind a bit to when PnB Rock first arrives at the Roscoe's, to the moment where he's fist pumped by one of the restaurant goers, because this man is a crucial element to why everything played out. Known A7 Gangster Crip, Tremont Jones, who's known to hang out at this Roscoe's, was the man who fist pumps PnB Rock. Arrived at the couple was seated, Tremont walks out of the Roscoe's and immediately makes a phone call to Freddie Trone, another A7 Gangster Crip member who meets him at the restaurant. Followed by the two talking about the possessions PnB Rock had and also plotting to set up robbery against the rapper. After the plot is discussed, Trone leaves, but soon returns down the block from the Roscoe's with his son, another young member of the A7 Gangster Crips, equipped with a pistol while wearing a face mask, who immediately gets out of the car and starts to pace towards the Roscoe's, walking right past Tremont, who now knew the plan was in full motion. And once inside, he walks up to PnB Rock and Stephanie and aggressively demands their jewelry, and after a short back and forth, the young A7 Gangster Crip member opens fire on PnB Rock, shooting him several times before snatching his jewelry off of his wounded body, and demanding that Stephanie take off her watch before he runs out of the restaurant and into the waiting getaway vehicle with his dad Trone as the driver. True Crime News, they got footage of what played out at the restaurant and of what Stephanie said played out as she was interviewed by police.
When I sit down to eat, it was low key, it wasn't no one in there. When we posting the chicken and the waffles.
This is unfortunately happening way too often.
As soon as he walked in, he pointed the gun at his stomach. He said, "Give me all that or I'll shoot you right now." And he just started shooting him. He took his rings off, necklaces off, took his two watches off, and he made me take my watch off. He said, "Give me that right now, I swear to God, I'll shoot you in the head."
The A7 Gangster Crips aren't found yet, but detectives quickly get to work on what played out and who committed the murder robbery. Soon enough, they were able to piece together what exactly played out and who was responsible for it by tracking a vehicle with surveillance cameras scattered throughout the neighborhood. For example, after tracking down where the car went, police recovered surveillance footage of Freddie Trone and his son walking near their apartment building just minutes after the shooting, followed by the son changing clothes and throwing away a bag into his home's dumpster. Also, in the early hours of the next day, Trone is seen leaving his apartment, getting into a black Buick, the same car used as the getaway, and driving it a couple blocks away from his residence, where he sets it on fire before walking back home.
So the car is a Buick Enclave. He sets it on fire blocks away from his residence and walks back home.
Investigators learned the car is registered to Freddie's wife, Chantel Trone.
Freddie Trone, he then leaves California, and with the help of his side chick, flees to Las Vegas and proceeds to go on a run, sending detectives on a manhunt to catch the A7 Gangster Crip, who help orchestrate and set up PnB Rock. Within a couple of days, Trone's caught, arrested, and interviewed by detectives. And during an interrogation, he's heard pleading his innocence to the investigators, while throwing his son under the bus, blaming him for everything. But none of his lies mattered, because the detectives, they already connected multiple dots that led them to have solidified evidence against all members who participated in PnB Rock's murder robbery. In the end, all 5 of the participants were convicted of either robbery, murder, or being an accessory after the fact of PnB Rock's murder. Definitely rest in peace to Rakeem Allen, also known by his stage name, PnB Rock. He was just starting to reap the rewards of his hard work of putting out amazing music. But unfortunately, he ended up losing his life after being at the wrong place at the wrong time. This particular Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles is known amongst locals as the one you never visit. Unless, of course, you're from that neighborhood. Bruh, I've been to literally every other Roscoe's out here, except for that one. Shit, I even been to the one in the OC, and that shit is trash. But I know better to ever hit this one up. And this was way before PnB Rock's death. That's because this Roscoe's has a history of violent stories playing out near or at this restaurant. But to fully understand why most locals avoid this location and to get into some more intense situations, it's essential that we get into who are the A7 Gangster Crips.
Youth gangs, primarily black and Hispanic, are setting records this year. More than 160 gang-related killings in the Los Angeles area alone.
Who are the A7 Gangster Crips? There's more than a few Gangster Crips in Los Angeles. And the A7 Gangster Crips, also known as the 87th Street Gangster Crips, are one of the older gangs under this umbrella. They're predominantly an African-American gang, but they're definitely known to put on other races. You don't see a lot of Mexicans from this gang as well. When it comes to locations, they're on the east side of South Central Los Angeles, California, particularly starting on Broadway in Manchester and stretching to about 92nd and San Pedro Street. So geographically, they aren't that big. But regardless of all that, they have a long history of holding their own against enemy gangs. So from around 1979 up until today, you can at least see a few members frontlining or occupying their territory, which one of the most popular restaurant chains in Los Angeles happens to be in. It's been more than a few deadly situations playing out at this Roscoe. Like in 2014, when a deadly gang war between the A7 Gangster Crips and the Avalon Gangster Crips played out. But that same Roscoe's been in the middle of it all. Let's get into it. Davion DeAndre Combs, also known as Buddha, Cedric Octavia Harris, also known as Box, and Allen, also known as Set Trip, belong to the 8A Avalon Garden Crips, a gang based near the Avalon Gardens housing projects in Los Angeles, California. All 3, they were friends with Lawndale McNeil, also known as Tiny Fish, or TF, who was also a member of the Avalon Garden Crips. At the time and even presently, the Avalon Garden Crips' main rivals were the A7 Gangster Crips, which claims the area just west of the Avalon's territory. Several years earlier, McNeil, he had been struck in the hand by a bullet, and his fellow gang member and best friend, Kurt Kirby, was killed in McNeil's presence. McNeil believed Keon, a member of the rival A7 Gangster Crips, had perpetrated the homicide. McNeil later memorialized Kirby by getting a tattoo near his right eye, a teardrop and the letters IS, which stood for Kirby's nickname, Infant Solo. McNeil's cousin, Oquana Pleasant, saw Keon shortly after Kirby's funeral. Keon drove near and asked Pleasant if she was on some Avon shit. Avon being a derogatory term referring to the Avalon Garden Crips. McNeil told Pleasant about his personal rivalry with Keon, and that he believed Keon was trying to kill him, while also mentioning that McNeil and his fellow gang members vowed retaliation for Kirby's death. And on October 25th of 2014, McNeil and Combs told Harris that Keon was at the Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles off Manchester Main Street, a restaurant in the rival A7 Gangster Crips territory, followed by the two picking up guns in an associate's house, and Harris then driving McNeil, Combs, and Allen in his SUV to the Roscoe's. They arrived at the Roscoe's, but Keon, he wasn't there. So they continued driving in the A7 Gangster Crips territory until they spotted a Monte Carlo near 88th Place and Wall Street. O'Quinn, who was in a gang friendly with the A7 Gangster Crips, drove to Monte Carlo, while Bernardez, who was an A7 Gangster Crip member, sat in the front passenger seat. Bernardez had actually observed the SUV moments before and told O'Quinn that it looked like some Avalons inside the SUV. O'Quinn, traveling northbound on Wall Street, stopped at the intersection of 88th Place and Wall Street. Harris's SUV, just past the intersection, faced eastbound on 88th Place. And once the two groups made eye contact, McNeil Combs exited the SUV and began firing at the Monte Carlo. McNeil stood in front of Combs and fired a single shot from his .357 caliber revolver. Combs, he fired 15 shots, one of which barely struck McNeil in the back of the head. The bullet entered the back of McNeil's head and exited slightly at a higher level through his forehead, causing McNeil to collapse on the ground. Meanwhile, while the shooting was going on, O'Quinn sped away as McNeil Combs fired at the Monte Carlo, while Bernardez ducked in the seat. Several bullets struck the passenger side of Monte Carlo, blew out a tire, and shattered the side and rear windows. Combs then got back into the SUV and fled with Harris and Allen. And after driving for several blocks, O'Quinn abandoned the Monte Carlo near 87th Street and Broadway. An associate then picked up O'Quinn and Bernardez and they left the area. Police, they responded to the scene at approximately 6:11 p.m. McNeil's body was laid faced up on the southeast corner of 88th Place and Wall Street. A .357 caliber revolver rested near his hand. The revolver contained 5 live rounds and 1 casing from an expended round. The police also gathered 15 expended .40 caliber casings spread throughout the southeast and northeast corners of 88th Place and Wall Street. The casings, they had been fired from the same .40 caliber handgun. And later on, the police located and secured the abandoned Monte Carlo that had been hit by several bullets. The detectives noted that the bullets may have been fired at a 45-degree angle and traveled from the right side of the car, the passenger side, to the left side. And all 3 projectiles came from that same .40 caliber handgun. On top of all that, there was also eyewitnesses to the shooting. For example, PS was nearby when the shooting took place. She heard gunshots at around 5:30 p.m. and witnessed a young black male near an SUV shooting in the northwestern direction. She turned her attention away briefly and then watched the shooter enter the passenger side of the SUV and drive around eastbound on 88th Place. Once the SUV drove away, she noticed McNeil's body laying near the southeast corner with the gun next to his hand. She then calls 911, but she declined to provide too many details during the call, stating that she didn't want to be labeled a snitch and get her fucking house blown up, and saying she didn't get a good look at the shooter's face and couldn't identify him. Also, McNeil's mother, Walden Boland, lived in the Avalon Gardens housing projects. She had known Combs his entire life and had known Harris and Allen for about 7 years. Combs and McNeil's, they were close friends. Around the time of McNeil's funeral, Harris approached Boland as she walked home. Harris said that he wanted to tell Boland what happened to her son, recognizing he'd get killed for talking to her. But still, he went on to confess his truth about what really played out during the day her son got killed. And in the end, due to surveillance footage, witness and gang expert testimonies, and evidence from detectives, the trial court, they sentenced Combs to a total of 75 years to life in prison, which included 25 years to life for murder, double to 50 years to life as a second strike, plus an additional 20 years for the firearm enhancement and another 5 years on a prior serious felony. Definitely rest in peace to Londale McNeil. While he was active in his street life, an early death is nothing a person deserves, especially one as violent as that one. But that's just another reason to avoid that Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, and the area as a whole. Look, the A7 Gangster Crips, they're definitely smaller than a lot of gangs in Los Angeles, but they have a brutal history of going at it with several different gangs. History of the A7 Gangster Crips. The A7 Gangster Crips are one of the older Crip gangs in Los Angeles. They start off as a small, tight-knit group that was known for holding down their block when it came to foreign groups trying to claim it as theirs. But eventually, all that changed once the war between the A-Tray Gangster Crips and neighborhood Rolling 60 Crips started. Once this war started, most gangs they chose up in terms of who they stood with. You was either under the neighborhood umbrella with the Rolling 60s, or you was moving with the Gangster Crip or Trey Card umbrella with the A-Tray Gangster Crips. At that time, the A7 Gangster Crips had a solid relationship with the A-Tray Gangster Crips. So for them, the choice was easy. Move with the Gangster Crips. So by 1980, the A7s had officially became the A7 Gangster Crips, and the rest was history. From the gang's foundation, while a few blocks remained small, the numbers of the A7 Gangster Crips stayed solid. And through those years, they would develop a scandalous reputation in Los Angeles. Like already mentioned, this gang's territory isn't big at all, but they make up for that by having more than a few members who have deadly stories and situations attached to their name. It mostly has to do with the demographics of the area. The A7 Gangster Crips territory starts at Manchester and Main Street and runs west to Broadway. And from the north to south, they start on Manchester and run down to 92nd Street. And if we look at a gang map, you can see the A7s are surrounded by pretty much nothing but rival gangs. To the west of them, you have the Hoover Criminals. To their north is the Main Street Mafia Crip. To their northeast, you have the Family Swan Bloods, who have one of the most deadliest reputations in Los Angeles. And to their east is the 88 Avalon Garden Crips, who the A7 Gangster Crips have been in deadly gang warfare with for a couple decades now. When it comes to this war, it's been several bodies dropped on both sides too, which we're definitely going to address once we get to rivals. Because these gangs are so close to each other, just for survival, it's essential that they move in the most militant fashion, which is exactly the case for the A7 Gangster Crips. Danger rating for the A7 Gangster Crips. PnB Rock's unfortunate death occurred because he was at the wrong place. Been at the A7 Gangster Crips area and eating at that Roscoe's, and definitely at the wrong time. With A7 Gangster Crips walking into the restaurant in an attempt to rob him. The crazy part, this definitely isn't the only headlines the A7 Gangster Crips are known for. Y'all heard a couple stories so far, but this gang, they have more than a few other situations that occurred in Los Angeles over the years. That's why the A7 Gangster Crips are going to receive a danger rating of a 7.9 out of 10, based off of the gang's long history, ruthless members, and violent means of operation. But what do y'all think? Did I go too high or too low? Y'all let me know in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. And give me some reasons on why, too.
It's like the Crips, but it's just the Slavs that got to go.
I don't understand. The what?
The Slavs, the Pyrus.
What's the Pyru?
That's the other ones, the ones that we killing.
The firepower is certainly there. These are some of the weapons seized overnight in police actions.
Allies and rivals of the A7 Gangster Crips. Like I already mentioned, the A7 Gangster Crips, they're one of the smaller gangs in Los Angeles when it comes to size and numbers. But they make up for that by having a few allies they can rely on when things get intense. For example, the A7 Gangster Crips, they have a long-standing alliance with the 97 Gangster Crips, which have been active for over 20 years. Also, they get along with the 4 Deuce, 4 Trey, 4 6, and 4 8 Gangster Crips, as well as having a controversial but close relationship with the East Coast Crips. I only mention controversial because while the East Coast Crips and the A7 Gangster Crips have a long-standing relationships, it's frowned upon by most other members of the Gangster Crip umbrella, due to them being mortal enemies with any member of the neighborhood, Deuce, or no car. which is pretty much what the East Coast Crips fall under. Here's the thing. This relationship is the reason why the A7 Gangster Crips have so many enemies today, some of which were supposed to be their allies. When it comes to enemies, one of their main rivals is the Hoover Criminal Gang. And this rivalry is allegedly why the A7 Gangster Crips are generally not accepted by other gangs under the Gangster Crip card umbrella. Not only because of their relationship with gangs under the neighborhood umbrella, but also because of their deep-rooted hatred for the Hoovers, which would naturally mean the Trouble Gangster Crips will fall under their list of enemies due to them being so close to the Hoovers. They also go at it with a lot of other gangs in the area, like the Main Street Crips, the Mad Swan Bloods, and the Different Lane Bloods. But one of the biggest enemies of the A7 Gangster Crips is definitely going to be with the 888 Avalon Garden Crips. The crazy part about this war is that the A7 Gangster Crips shared a close alliance with the 888 Avalon Garden Crips, a subset of the Avalon Gangster Crips. However, in 2003, the 87 Gangster Crips and the 88 Avalon Garden Crips became involved in a bitter rivalry, which resulted in multiple gang-related deaths. In a matter of months, members on both sides lost their lives as a result of this feud. Y'all heard one intense situation about these two gangs going back and forth, but there's more than a few other stories to account for their hatred towards each other, including a big case that set the tone for the long war. In January 2004, Frank Harris, an active member of the A7 Gangster Crips' twin brother, was shot and killed by members of the Avalon Garden Crips. So tensions was definitely high between the gangs. It was led to another shooting in March of 2004, when the A7 Gangster Crips took vengeance by killing a reputable member of the AA Avalon Garden Crips to retaliate for the murder of Frank Harris's twin brother, who was also an associate of the A7 Gangster Crips. After that, the Avalon Gardens, they responded by fatally shooting two women associated with the A7 Gangster Crips. At this point, the two gangs were engaged in one of the most deadly gang wars in the 2000s. But truth be told, it was only the beginning. Later that same year, another deadly situation played out. At about 7:50 p.m. on November 11th of 2004, police were dispatched to the corner of Avalon and 52nd Street, known as the gathering place for the Avalon Garden Crips, to investigate a shooting. And once there, police found Sherman Clark's body in a restaurant parking lot. TB, who had been shot in the foot, was also inside the restaurant. Clark and TB were both members of the Avalon Crips, although it was unclear whether they were members of the Avalon Garden Crips or another subset. The shooting, it was captured in a restaurant security camera, and the video was introduced into evidence, as the detective showed the recording to various law enforcement officers. And from that video, the officers were able to identify Frank Harris as the shooter. And in the end, due to the shooting being captured on a restaurant security camera and witness statements, Harris, he was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison for the murder, plus a consecutive 25 years to life for the attempted murder. Definitely rest in peace to all parties involved. 2004 was a deadly year for both gangs. But to this day, this intense hatred towards each other is still seen. There have been several fights, shootings, and deadly gang warfare with each other. During my research, I couldn't find a concrete answer to the source of this war. So my question is, with these two gangs being Gangster Crips and at one point being super close, how'd the A7 Gangster Crips and the Avalon Garden Crips war between each other start? Y'all let me know in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. Anyways, y'all heard a few stories at this point, but now let's get into the members who have made this gang what it is today. Prominent figures. The A7 Gangster Crips have been active for over 4 decades, and through those 4 years have had more than a few prominent members who have made this gang so respected and feared today. First off, I couldn't find any members no longer with us, which is definitely a good thing. But if it's any members y'all know that's resting in peace, let me get an RIP to whoever it may be. Let's keep their names alive. Anyways, they do have some notable members who have stories that stretch back to the gang's foundation. A few of them include Trayvon Jones and Frank Harris. Y'all let me know if any other OGs are prominent members too. On top of that, they have a few rappers who have been making a lot of noise for the gang over the years. A big name from this gang is definitely gonna be Evil Scheme, who had a lot of music back in the 1990s and early 2000s. Kinda reminds me of a Crippin' DJ Quick. Y'all look into him if you haven't heard of any of his music. Y'all won't be disappointed. Some younger rappers who are up and coming include Eastside Twin, who definitely has that hard, catchy flow, and it's OTM Nino, whose bars are intense, yet kind of funny. Both have unique flows, definitely worth looking into. But I tried to find some other music for them, but unfortunately I couldn't find anything new. Y'all let me know in the comments if they're still dropping music. Current state of the A7 Gangster Crips. When it comes to the current state of the A7 Gangster Crips, while this gang is a lot smaller in size compared to a lot of different gangs, they're still one of the more active gangs in this area of Los Angeles. Man, definitely rest in peace to PnB Rock, but he was unfortunately one of the many victims that this gang has taken out due to how active they are in the area. Like I mentioned earlier, you could down there go to any other Roscoe's in Los Angeles, except for this one, because more than likely, this gang is definitely hanging around that area. And if you got any jewels or valuables on you, trust, this gang is looking to hit a lick or take your shit. Bars, nigga. Nah, seriously. Don't take this gang's small number in size as any reason not to be on your toes in this area. Anyways, that's it for the A7 Gangster Crips. Y'all got any crazy stories about these guys? Any close calls? Also, did I miss anything? Did I get anything wrong? Y'all let me know in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and if you're a part of the Danger Gang. Y'all stay safe and dangerous out there.